I recently made a build video on the Titan, and a lot of people really like that build. So in this video, we're going to be doing that on the Warlock. So for this build, you're primarily going to want to get tons of melee energy. And no, we are not using the Monte Carlo, just letting you guys know we are not using that. We are using something else. So you are going to be getting tons of fire sprites whenever you kill a scorched target, and whenever you pick up a fire sprite, it would give you restoration. And also whenever you get a melee kill or a finisher, it would also grant you restoration as well. So you are not going to have to worry about regenerating your health because you're going to be having a bunch of methods for you to proc restoration for this build. If you guys would like to see this on the Hunter, let me know in the comments. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's first start with the subclass. I am using the Dawnblade, aka Well of Radiance, and here's what the abilities I was using. For the abilities, I'm using Phoenix Dive, or if you would like to increase your weapon damage even further, you can use Empowering Rift. For the solar melee, I do recommend going for Incinerator Snap because one, it's very good proccing ignitions, and also it scorches targets as well. For the solar grenades, I chose to put this Firebolt grenade just because of the base cooldown, in which case is 1 minute and 4 seconds, because I'm going to want to get a ton of heat rises for me to get even more melee energy. We get onto that after. For the aspects, the first one I do recommend going for is Touch of Flame because we are using a Firebolt grenade. It would increase the target search radius and maximum target count. The second solar aspect is your main go-to one, and it's called Heat Rises. Whenever you consume your grenade, it would proc Heat Rises, which will allow you to stay in the air more longer. And also whenever you get kills while you're airborne with Heat Rises, you're going to be granted melee energy. So that is one way for you to proc melee regen, and it's by using this aspect. Now onto the fragments. 2 of them are going to be good for your restoration and radiant, and the other 2 are going to be good for fire sprites and also restoration as well. The first solar fragment is Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. The second solar fragment is Ember of Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration for restoration and radiant applied to you, but it would give you -10 discipline. So this is how you can be able to get unlimited amounts of restoration and radiant. And we are using 2 solar weapons for this build. For the third solar fragment you're going to want to use is Ember of Mercy. Whenever you revive an ally, you and your other nearby allies gain restoration, but the best part is that whenever you pick up a fire sprite, it would grant restoration. Additionally, you will get +10 resilience. So we're going to be spawning in fire sprites 2 ways. The first one is with our exotic weapon, and the second one is by getting scorched weapon final blow kills. So that's going to be our 4th fragment. The 4th fragment is Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy, and it would also give you a fire sprite. And for this fragment, it would give you +10 recovery. Whenever you pick up a fire sprite, it would give you grenade energy. So the more targets we scorch, the more melee energy we're going to be receiving. So that fragment gives us the second way to proc even more melee regeneration. Now let's head to the weapons. For the kinetic weapon, you could put any other special fusion rifle or any other special weapon you like. But for me, I'm using the Scatter Signal because of the seasonal artifact perks. And for this fusion rifle, I do recommend going for is Overflow and Controlled Burst. Now let's head to the 2 solar weapons that would buff this build even further. You can use any solar legendary weapon for your energy slot, but in this case I'm using the hand cannon, of course, because of the seasonal artifact perks. The perks you would want to go for are Explosive Payload and most importantly Incandescent, because whenever you get a kill with this weapon, it will scorch nearby targets. And for the exotic weapon I'm using for this build is the Dragon's Breath because of the catalyst. If you don't know what the catalyst does, it would 1, replenish the fuel faster, and 2, whenever you defeat targets with this weapon, it will cause them to periodically drop fire sprites as well. So this is your second way to proc fire sprites for this build. And of course, this rocket launcher would also scorch targets as well, which would also give you fire sprites even more. So now let's head to the seasonal artifact mods that I was using for this build. On the second column, I'm using Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched combatants. And the next one is Blast Radius. Rapid final blows with rocket launchers and grenade launchers grants an armor charge. On the third column, I'm only using one, and it's Flint Striker. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows grants Radiant, in which case Radiant will give you a 25% increased weapon damage boost. On the 4th column, I'm using Unraveling Orbs because of our fusion rifle. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Strand Weapons Unraveling rounds, in which case you could be able to stun anti-barrier champions as well. The next one is Revitalizing Blast. Causing damage with a solar ability weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. And the last one on the 4th column is Overload Rocket Launchers. It would give your rocket launchers overload rounds, which will give you an 80% and increase more damage to overload champions when you're using the rocket launcher. Onto the 5th column, there are 2 of them. The first one is good for your fusion rifle. It is Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a threadling. And the last one is good for your solar weapons, primarily your primary solar weapon. It's Rays of Precision. While radiant, solar precision final blows causes combatants to ignite. So for this build, if you have all of the weapons that I am using, you're going to be stunning every single champion in the entire game. Anti-barrier because 1, we are getting radiant, and 2, unraveling rounds for our strand fusion rifle, and 2, we are using unstoppable hand cannon for the seasonal artifact mod. And for overloads, as what I just mentioned, we are using overload rocket launcher because of the seasonal artifact mods. And for the stats, I do recommend going for resilience because it would give you a 30% damage reduction if you have tier 10. And secondly, you can go for discipline as well. Ignore recovery because of course this is a god tier unkillable build. Let's talk about which exotic armor piece you're going to be using. You're going to use this exotic gauntlet, which will give you restoration even more. So whenever you get a melee or finisher final blow, it would give you cure instantly and provide restoration for a short time. So let's just say you get a melee kill, it would grant ×3 cure and restoration for 8 seconds. So if you would get a finisher, it would give you ×3 cure and ×2 restoration for 8 seconds. If you're one of those people that do not know how to use this build, let me show you guys how to do it properly. What you're first going to want to do is consume your firebolt to give you heat rises. Once you have heat rises, be sure to go into the air and get a kill with your melee or with your weapons. Once you do that, you'll extend the duration for heat rises, and then after that, go in the air again and just keep getting kills non-stop. Quick tip for heat rises is that instead of you going all the way up into the air, all you would do is go on the ground, jump once, and be sure to get a kill as you're doing it while you're jumping. Once you do that, it would count as you getting a kill in mid-air. And when you get kills with your solar hand cannon and also with the dragon's breath, it would spawn in fire sprites for you to go and collect it, and it would give you grenade energy and restoration too. And also too, let's just say you're at 30 seconds of heat rises and you accidentally consume your grenade. You would actually think it would increase the duration even further, but no, it actually doesn't. So once you consume your grenade and you're at 30 seconds of heat rises, it would knock it down all the way to 15 seconds instead of 30 seconds. So be sure to pay attention to the timer of heat rises before you consume or cast your grenade. And if you guys would like to see all of the armor mods I was using for this build, it would be right here on screen, but I do recommend checking this out in the dim link in the description. But for the main mods I do want to mention is that for the gauntlets, I'm using melee kickstart. So let's just say we have armor charges, so it would convert those armor charges into melee energy. And for the boots, I am using elemental charge. Whenever we collect a fire sprite, it would have an escalating chance to give us an armor charge. So those are the main mods you guys will need to know for this build. If you guys would like to see another variation of this but on the hunter, be sure to let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care and peace. Join the Discord.